Okay, thank you. That took a minute. Um, all right, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone that has joined us today. This session is being recorded, so if you're unwilling or unable to be part of the recording, you may drop off now. We're planning to go for about 30 to 40 minutes today. My name is Ismail Nalwala, and I'm the CEO of IOTAP, based out of the DC metro area. My company, IOTAP, is a Microsoft Cloud Solutions partner, and Work 365 is the application that we've developed on Dynamics 365 for uh, companies that are looking to build their business around recurring revenue and cloud services. So today we'll talk a little bit about self-service and e-commerce marketplace options with Work 365. I will try to differentiate the two and talk about how Work 365 supports various customer scenarios, and I'll share some of our own experiences as well. So let's get right to it. So our agenda, again, as I mentioned, is, I'll talk a little bit about what I think around customer service, customer experience, um, look at how Dynamics 365 and Work 365 can deliver these experiences for you, when to consider self-service and e-commerce. We'll do a demonstration as well on the e-commerce side, and I'll share some updates for our upcoming release, which is scheduled in April, which is version 2.5. All right, I'll start with a Dilbert strip here because we love Dilbert. So I think this slide shows two sides of the world that we typically live in, right? The first one, I think, could potentially describe how a meeting at Microsoft, the mothership, happens, right? The comic strip is about customers there, but you could easily strike out customers there and replace that with partners, right? So everybody's thinking about their own goals, and so the point is you got to think about your own goals. And in the bottom, really, it's a tough world out there, a lot of competition, and we're getting creative. But the second strip is really about hope, right? Hope that none of us are feeling like that today. And so what we want to talk about is how Work 365 can help with that service and experience creation. All right, so I can see from our registrations today that we have attendees that are both new to Work 365 and some of you that are existing users. So for the benefit of the first-time attendees, I'll just mention quickly that Work 365 is a subscription management billing automation solution that helps you create game-changing opportunities and deliver great customer experiences and help you scale your business, right? Work 365 is built on Dynamics 365 and includes these four solution components: subscription management and invoicing, self-service, e-commerce, and then customer service. All right, and we continue to talk about each one of these aspects. And today, as I mentioned, this is going to be our primary focus around self-service and e-commerce. All right, so before we get into the meat of this topic, it is customary to talk about the market and trends. So I will stick to that tradition and do the same thing again. Generally, self-service adoption will continue to increase. I'm sure all of you are seeing that. We're seeing that. There are predictions that in a year or so, customers will manage a majority. I've heard numbers like 80+% of their relationship with an enterprise without interacting with someone, right? I will share our own numbers towards the end of the presentation. Self-service is really about customer experience, and buyers will pay for a better experience. Customers are more likely to buy from a competitor if the problem is with the service rather than the product or the price. So one quick point about customer experience and customer service in my mind is that customer service is the service received by the customer through the customer's initiative to resolve an issue. Something is broken, not right, and they need help. And customer experience, on the other hand, is everything the customer experiences when working with you. It's the overall combination of interactions that you enable proactively and reactively. So in that vein, self-service portals are really about offering that better customer experience. And that brings me to my point about why Work 365 is a customer experience application because it helps you drive better outcomes, better customer experience. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about some foundational items. We're all selling stuff and running a business, and now this recurring revenue thing is being talked about and hyped up all day by Microsoft distributors, cloud consultants, marketplace companies, and even folks like me, like I'm doing today, right, on this call. So I want to use this slide to drive home our discussion on one of the key tenets, which is around really scale and profitability. So if you take all the massive and complex tasks that we have to do to run the business, right, we have these four categories, right? We talk about defining what we're selling, how we're selling it. We deliver those services and products and then support them. And then finally bill them, collect money for it. And in terms of costs and revenue, we'll basically put these items into two buckets, right? The customer acquisition costs and the cost of the service. We always want to find a way to keep our costs manageable and still continue to scale our operations, right? That's what productivity is about. That's what technology does for us. So now, if you're a direct CSP partner, Microsoft actually mandates that you have a billing automation and customer service system in place. We talk about that in slides down the road in this conversation, right? The question, I'm hoping that you're thinking about is, do we need this stuff? What's the need for this, right? What is the need for the billing automation? What is the need for the self-service and the customer service? So let's talk about numbers and market trends. So there's plenty of information out there in the IT space with cloud services and recurring revenue models. What I find amongst the most impressive stats is that cloud partners, those that have about 50% or more of their revenue in the recurring cloud business, see about twice the amount of growth and 1.5 times gross profits compared to their less cloudy peers. Now, surveys don't reveal causations, but regardless, there is a correlation. And this all sounds great, except not really. The reality is that the overall technology spending is pretty much the same. It only grows by about 3% a year. So where is this growth really coming from? And if you continue down that thought process, it's really a shift that's taking place, right, in revenue rather than real growth in spending and investments. So you want to be part of that that gravy train, I guess, or that momentum around the growth. So now that we've talked about that, let's take a look at a typical customer experience, right? What is a customer? How does a customer invest their time and money with us? This is an example of the different stages that a customer interacts with you. They may find you online through a referral, a cold call. Then comes the evaluation phase where you propose the services, negotiate, and sell to the customer what they really need. They eventually buy from you, and you implement the services for them, and you go into this realization phase. This is the phase where the customer and us and you are engaged for the long haul, right? This is where potentially value is created and services are delivered again and again, and the customer lifetime value is realized. This is where you have changes in support plans, growth, reductions in services. So now what I want to do is map the costs and the journey to these, in the previous slide that I had, to these considerations, right? We tried to benchmark these costs for us to determine what they were, and we found that about 25% of the services that we had changed about once a month. So if we had about 100 services or subscriptions, 25 of those were changing in either additions or subtractions every month. We were spending about 2 to 3 hours a day between our accounts, customer service, and sales team to track and manage all these changes. We could have exposed our distributors marketplace to our customers to do some of the self-service, but that was far from an ideal customer experience. And that would have actually locked us down into using only that specific distributor. So this is when we realized we had to put a system in place around self-service and e-commerce that could help deliver both great customer experiences and allow us to scale. So the important takeaway on this slide here is that, the interactions are bumpy, right? They're non-linear. A lot of them are different, and there's a lot of touch points, and most importantly, a lot of data that corresponds to that journey. Everybody knows that. You guys know that. So the important thing here is now you use these different systems potentially for different functions of your business. All of these have an impact on your customer experience, right? Your billing and accounting systems is where you do orders, invoicing, payments, and payment transactions. Your ticketing system is where you're doing customer service, incident tracking. You monitor SLAs, potentially entitlements. You provision services either through Partner Center or your portals. Your project service systems have quotes, contracts, orders, timesheets, et cetera, et cetera. So the question is, where does your customer information, product information that they have bought from you and expect from you, what you promised them, where does it actually live, right? How are these systems working together? And as we discussed in the previous slide, the customer experience should be an outcome of your design and need and not limited by the technology that you're using, right? So as you can see here, I've highlighted, billing accounting systems could be a Business Central, QuickBooks, whatever. You're using ConnectWise for your ticketing system, maybe some provider, distributor, whatever that is. Again, PSA system could be different. And then your sales and marketing systems. Now, here's what we want to propose, right? So this is how a platform like Dynamics 365 takes those silos, crushes them, and along with Work 365 can unify your processes and your data for your customers. You can use Dynamics 365 and Work 365 to drive these experiences. And let's talk about what they are. So I want to talk about scenarios, right? I have here a broad range of scenarios ranging from a marketplace to a knowledge base. These are the typical kinds of things you can enable for your customers. But most of us, including us actually at IOTAP, only have a few of these scenarios enabled through our portal. A quick definition, in my mind, is an online marketplace or an e-commerce site is the type of site where a product is provided by not just you, but potentially third parties as well, including the original third parties. And they're managed by this marketplace operator. Supports and incidents are usually tracked through a portal for submitting tickets. This is where you might manage the life cycle of a support incident. So the bottom line is, as you can see, that there's a whole bunch of customer-facing scenarios you can enable, right? I'm going to try to see if we can simplify this a little bit. So if you take the two core systems we were talking about, which is e-commerce and self-service, what I'd like to share with you is this is typically how we see it. You can initiate through e-commerce and manage through self-service, right? In the case of e-commerce or the marketplace, the technology is focused primarily on pricing, product catalog management, payment, and payment transactions, and fulfillment in some cases. On the self-service side, it's mostly about creating an experience that gives them the ability to explore and manage their relationship with you, besides just the ticketing piece, right? Which is what a lot of us kind of focus on. Most of the times, these sites don't showcase the holistic relationship your customers have with you, because the customer data, as we talked about in the previous slide, is in multiple places, right? Both these worlds, for all practical purposes, may be separate. If you have purchased an incident and ticketing solution, it won't have a marketplace. And if you've purchased a marketplace, it won't have an incident tracking system. So now, what do we see? You go from initiate to manage through a self-service system, and you go from having an existing relationship to potentially reinitiating additional services through the e-commerce system, right? So they both live in harmony, actually back and forth. Some of us start here, stay here. Some of us start here and stay here. But there's a back and forth, and there's a platform that makes this happen, which is really Work 365. So we started with this partner checklist to cover the high-level buckets of service and cost, right? We talked about self-service and the idea that these tools you're going to be using will, shrink costs and get you some scale. Now, if you are a direct CSP partner, Microsoft actually mandates that you have billing automation, customer self-service, and order placement in place for you, right? The question is, why does Microsoft mandate that? Do the indirect partners working with distribution not need it, right? What is the difference between the two situations? The reality really is that there is no difference in what the direct partners need and what the indirect partners need to run their business. In the partner world, or the service provider world, it's really someone at Microsoft saying that, hey, this indirect partner is not my problem because this partner is not my direct customer. That indirect providers send you an invoice and give you a portal to manage and provision these services, but they can only do it for their specific services and products that you're buying from them. Not all the services and products and services, not all the products and services that you're selling to your customers can be invoiced through your distributor. All right, so with that, let's look at what the demonstration would be in terms of enabling an end customer scenario on an e-commerce site. So I've listed out a bunch of steps here that you can imagine would be pretty typical for a customer to come onto your website or e-commerce site, shop around, buy something, register, enter their payment information, get an order confirmation, and then these are the items that are specific to the Microsoft world, right? The Microsoft Office 365 and cloud services world. So let's see how this works out in our e-commerce demonstration. So here I have my SkyBlue e-commerce portal, right? What you'll notice is you can brand it. It can be customized to exactly what you want it to look like from a theming perspective. This is what ours looks like. This is what our demonstration site looks like. Now I'm shopper. I've come onto the site. I found it online through Google AdWords or some marketing that you're doing online, which is also possible through e-commerce. You come up with a marketing strategy, you make that available. I find the product that I like. This is the Office 365 Enterprise E3 plan. I want to buy this because I'm shifting from either a business premium or something like this. Through the e-commerce site, you can also do content syndication from your third-party vendors. So it's not just you creating the content. You can actually pull in content from Microsoft and other vendors that allow content syndication. So you can have really rich product catalogs. Anyway, let's continue down this path. I like this product. I'm going to add it to my cart. And I might continue to buy more products. I'm not going to show you that, but you can imagine I've found an E3 plan and multiple other products. I've added them to the cart. All right. Now I'm being, excuse me, prompted with a login screen to either register or log in with my credentials. I have to make a decision here, and then I'm a new customer here, so I select new customer, and now I'm being asked whether I'm actually going to be moving to the cloud for the first time, or I actually already have online services, but I want to buy new services from SkyBlue. That is most of the scenarios that we encounter now. Most partners are dealing with new transactions from existing users of online services. And in either case, it's still possible to go through and provision a brand new customer through a portal. I'm going to show you the scenario where the customer that's on the site is already a Microsoft Cloud customer. All right, so the person gets a prompt to log in with their existing credentials, which is fantastic because now they're basically using single sign-on between the e-commerce site and Office 365. I'm Kyle, logged in as Kyle from my Kitchen Top company. I have submitting my password. I come back to the e-commerce site. Now I complete some additional information around my personal details, billing information, and I skipped here too fast. I'm now being prompted to actually accept the cloud agreement. in order for me to proceed with the provisioning process and the order placement process. Notice here there's a checkbox. I select the checkbox, and then I'm being presented with the actual agreement. This agreement could be your agreement, the cloud agreement, the combination of the agreements, whatever you want that to be, right? I scroll through the agreement, I accept the agreement, and now I'm looking at my product cart, right? My shopping cart, sorry. I have in my shopping cart the various products I was looking around for and shopping for, and notice two of them are enterprise plans and one of them is an add-on. I continue through that process, I complete my billing information, and I submit my payment information. Now, once I do that, the order can be essentially, sorry, going back here. Once I do this, I'm given a confirmation screen. I confirm the order, and the order is actually successfully processed. By what I mean by that is the order has been placed within the e-commerce system, and now I will actually walk you through the entire flow of what will happen in Work 365 and the Dynamics 365 system. But before I do that, you see here that the customer is now presented with the URL to actually accept the terms, accept the reseller relationship. This is actually what is absolutely required for them to go ahead, for you as a partner to go ahead and provision the services. So they get the information here to confirm this because they're already logged in with their Office 365 credentials. It's very easy to do it while they're online. In case they haven't, they'll get an email confirmation, and you will see that in a second. Now, they've placed the order, they go online, they see these services. Notice that the services have been purchased, or actually order has been submitted, but the services are pending provisioning. So the status here says pending. Now let's see what's happening in the back end and what can happen in the back end. Here, one more screenshot here that shows you that the customer has actually received an email to accept that reseller relationship. All right. So that's all the customer facing stuff. Kyle's done his bit. Let's see what happens in the back end. All right. Now these are all the steps that have to take place for you to actually complete that order. So really, that customer information has to be created in your Dynamics CRM system, and the cloud agreement has to be signed off and set up. Payment profile needs to be there, et cetera, right? So let's see what that flow looks like. So the customer created an account for themselves. We were able to take that information and create an account in CRM. The contact is also created in CRM, right? The customer accepts the cloud agreement, in which case the cloud agreement is created in CRM, Work 365 rather. Okay, the customer presented and submitted their payment profile. The payment profile is also created in Dynamics and Work 365. Okay, keep moving on. Now, the order is also created. I do want to mention that regardless of whether you are a direct partner or an indirect partner, this flow is consistent between the two scenarios. If you are an indirect partner, you would send maybe 2 links to the end customer to say, hey, please authorize the distributor as your reseller and you as the admin. And if you're a direct partner, you would send them one link to say, hey, authorize me as a direct reseller for your Office 365 tenant, right? So the experience is exactly the same. Some of the links and things like that can be a little different. So far, everything is the same between the two scenarios, right? Now what you're looking at is the order from the online store being made available in your Dynamics 365 CRM system, right? So now you can see that the order is there associated with the customer. You now have to fulfill the order, right? Guess what happens? That the order is automatically set up with the billing contract in the system, right? You know the terms and conditions that were set up when the customer made the purchase. Terms are set up exactly as they would be on the online purchase side of things. Billing contract set up, the subscriptions are all set up. right? As soon as the customer accepts that agreement, as we had mentioned in the previous slides with the email and the online confirmation, this line item indicates that the customer agreement is in place, which is the active provider account, which essentially means that the order is now eligible for provisioning and the provisioning takes place automatically, right? I'm showing you an example here of one of the change logs that continues and completes the flow right from order placement to provisioning, right? Order number reference is included, provision status is included, the order source is included, ordered by is included right here in the change log. All right, customer receives an email saying, hey, your order is completed, and now you can go ahead and manage your licenses, sign up into our self-service portal, go ahead and start to consume the services that you received from us. All right. Order is fulfilled. One more screenshot just to show you the completing the process is getting completed here. And the customer logs in online. Now the services are active, right? So there's a lot going on here, but I'm hoping with this demonstration of the flow, you can see all the various pieces of the journey that are connected through this one workflow with really very little manual effort, both on the customer part and on the partner's part, right? On behalf of the partner. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of what that flow looks like. All right, let's keep moving on here. So these numbers that I'm sharing with you here are from our own e-commerce store. We have more than 1,000 orders that have been placed on our store and close to 450 customers that have registered on our store. All of these are not net new, of course, but license changes in products are also included as part of these orders. So what has happened for us, right? The numbers and the quality of the customers has improved significantly. The pace at which we're signing up customers and the amount that they're buying also has increased. What I mean by that is it's not just an increase in the quantity of licenses, but also the density of the products they buy from us. And our retention rates are fairly good. We're able to keep customers happy. And the amount of effort that it takes to deal with the license changes and the provisioning of services has actually practically vanished. The effort to accurately invoice the customers at the correct time has reduced drastically too. So self-service and e-commerce have actually helped us do these things. So that brings me to the point that I started with. In order to create game-changing opportunities and provide the best customer experiences, you need to define what your offerings are, what are the plans, bundles, and offers, like I mentioned, and what is your pricing strategy to align with these market positions, right? You need to define how you will take these offers to the market. What are your channels? How will you merge and manage both these worlds, right? Which is the traditional offline sales and aligning that with your online and e-commerce service portals, right? These channels need to work together, complement each other, and it's much easier to make it happen if they're built on one platform. And that's kind of where Work 365 plays a big role, right? And the most important thing is to keep your customer, the who in mind, right? At the center of all these worlds. How will you map that journey from awareness to realization, right? And ensure that every interaction experience is cohesive and connected, right? That's really what we're going for here, is creating better customer experiences for our customers. All right, quick update here. April 2.5 is coming out, just a highlight of some of the cool features that are going to be in there for all the existing users and ones that are kind of sitting on the sideline, wondering whether that feature they requested is in there or not. Credit hold management is going to be there. I don't have time to demonstrate that. We're going to have auto charge through payment processing, auto sync of invoices. There's a great Azure Insights preview, which I can show you today. Some great scenarios on self-service as well. So not only will you be able to place the orders, your customers will actually be able to manage those licenses directly from the portals. They won't have to place the order and go into the Office 365 admin portal. So that, I believe, that's going to be sort of a game changer in how the stickiness will kind of work out for all of you that are considering self-service and e-commerce. And we're going to provide a lot of enhanced onboarding scenarios for the customer journey. So look out for all this stuff. Just a quick preview. In Work 365 right now, if you're doing Azure billing, you see a whole bunch of these data items in your subscriptions. The usage summary shows up every month from Microsoft's invoices. It looks good to see the numbers, I guess. It's a whole bunch of data stuff, but this is what's going to happen coming down in 2.5. You're going to be able to see inline trends and visualize the graphics for that consumption data right from within your Dynamics CRM and Work 365 system, right? So what I see here is what's happening with this customer over the last 6 months since they started the service. The light blue here is the cost, and the dark blue here is what was actually billed and invoiced them. The trend is really great. Everybody loves to see this kind of chart. And then what you see here is what is actually currently uninvoiced and part of the license details. What you'll also see on the right is how are they consuming these services? What is the actual breakdown of these different service items that are in the consumption reports, right? So hopefully you'll find a lot of great insights right in the application as you service your customers with Azure. All right, so we're wrapping up here, and I wanted to just leave you with a few next steps and kind of some key takeaways for this. All right, so the way I see this is there's 3 broad buckets. Can you think of one or more ways to make your customer's life easier? So if you can do that today, that would be a big win. I think 30, 40 minutes, that is well spent. Besides sending them to a portal for support tickets, which all of us know are non-revenue items, can you do anything to be proactive, get issues resolved quicker, and get more information in their hands, right? Do any one thing, right? Think about that. And is there anything that you can do to improve the quality of the work that your own team is doing, right? Are they responding repeatedly to the same requests? Are you able to track and manage these kind of things that they're doing? And a lot of us tend to assume that there's this one person in the office whose job it is to do these routine tasks. But I believe, obviously, and I'm sure everybody understands it, that there's a better way to use their time so that they can create more value. And we have seen that. We've unlocked that in our own organization by automating some of these tasks. And I'll give you an example of that. My finance and accounting team is helping with renewals much more than just doing basic billing tasks, because we freed up time. Our renewals are better. Our sales team is not focusing on doing things like renewal conversations. Just an example right there. Another thing is, final thing is, can you think of a change in how you're selling your products and services and how you envision using the technologies we talked about today to improve your services and deliver them faster, cheaper, and better, right? So there's this thing that you can only get 2 of the 3, like fast, cheap, or good, right? You can't do all 3, you can only get 2 of them. Right, so, but that's probably true for most things, but with technology, that is not always the case, right? I mean, I use the example of Office 365 and Exchange Online. It's fast to implement, it's pretty cheap, it's well priced rather, and it's really good. So it is possible to have all 3. Of course, not in all the cases. So I believe we can do that through some of this. So now let's talk about how you do this. I have some information here on the that you can kind of think about. So with e-commerce, you're looking at doing product management, pricing, and bundling. Now, if you want to work on e-commerce, you want to work on those items, and we can help you with setting that stuff up. But ideally, you want to have a plan, go-to-market strategy, think about what you're going to do. At least have your products defined. Branding is important. You want to go. You can always start with something simple and then continue to enhance it, right? How are you going to manage some of that customer engagement and customer management? What are the payment systems you want to think about using? And how do you see any other third-party order processing that's required as well in your case? So generally, So another thing to keep in mind on the e-commerce side, our e-commerce solution integrates with Dynamics. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get something up and running. That's good for you. On the self-service side, considerations are a little bit different. All the data is there from within Dynamics. It's surfacing that correctly, right? What's important there? Branding. How do you want to manage that registration process? Keep in mind that we use Azure AD credentials, which is Office 365 credentials across all assets. So your customer has a pretty seamless experience, and you're not managing multiple credentials around the different assets, right? Online assets. And this takes about 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the scope and what you're trying to do. Of course, there are a lot of assumptions here from a scope and complexity standpoint, but these are going to be fairly reasonable parameters for most people. We went live with our e-commerce system in about 2 months when we first launched it, right? So, we did I guess, a minimal viable launch at that point, and we continued to build it out nonstop, actually, ever since then. All right, so I'm wrapping up here. I thought this would go for 40 minutes. We're at 37 here. So just a few final remarks. Webinars are on this link. We will be at these events this year. So if you're at the summit in Amsterdam, hoping I'll see you there. I definitely plan to see some of you at Directions in Vegas, and we will be at Inspire as well in July. Now, we have an onboarding offer that's available for e-commerce right now. So if you want to talk to us about that, please don't hesitate to reach us at readytogo@work365apps.com. And with that, I'll wrap up here and open it up for questions. Let me see if I have any questions. No questions. We have a couple more minutes, so if anybody has some questions, please don't hesitate. Just a few things that I get asked consistently is, our e-commerce platform is multi-currency, multi-country. It supports everything from product management, pricing, and catalog management, and integrates right with Dynamics. So I have a question around pricing. So I'd prefer not to discuss pricing on this call because it can get confusing, and it's important for us to understand really what you're trying to do. We don't, just to give you some indications, we don't price by revenue share at all. Our services are priced on a fixed fee based on the level of plan or service capabilities that you need. We would love to set up a time and talk to you to share some more information. So let me see if I can open this up. What D365 SKUs do we need to have? Right. So you actually only need the sales application, but if you want self-service, then you want the customer engagement plan, which all Microsoft partners who have internal use rights can leverage. It's the customer engagement plan. Hopefully that answered your question. Can we integrate with our QuickBooks? Absolutely, you can integrate with QuickBooks. QuickBooks Online is possible and easy right out of the application. If you're looking to do QuickBooks on-prem, we do have a third-party partner solution that we can help you with, and I can share some more information about that. Yeah, but QuickBooks integration with Dynamics is very easy. By easy, I mean it's been done a lot, right? You just have to put the effort into getting it done. Yeah. Just one moment. I'm going to see if I can expand my questions. Okay. Yes. Can we choose what payment gateway is used? Great question again. So right now we have, yes, you have a lot of choices. On the e-commerce side, it supports any and every payment gateway. So with payment gateways, you do have a lot of flexibility and choices. On the Dynamics side, there's third-party payment gateways and what's built in with Work365. So Work365 already integrates with Authorize.net, and if you need a third-party integration, which doesn't exist, we can talk about that. But certainly it's possible. So we can talk. Please let me know. Another question for direct CSP. Yes, you can start with the self-service portal. That is the ideal way to get going, and then transition into e-commerce, because most of your scenarios will be addressed with self-service. Happy to, yep, share that again in some more detail. Yeah. Yes. So where does the invoicing work? Does this integrate with Business Central? So good question. Invoices generated right out of Dynamics 365. It can be integrated with Business Central for sure. There's many ways to do this, and we have partners that have actually already done this. We don't have an out-of-the-box integration, but we can certainly help you with that. Most partners that start out using Work 365 will set up the subscription management piece, which allows you to do billing automation, review the invoices, then go into the self-service piece, and then go into the integration or do them simultaneously. But certainly possible to integrate with Business Central as well. Okay, let me see. I'm going to go back. I think I missed a few questions. How is payment processing handled with credit card billed automatically each month? That's absolutely, oh, okay, good. Looks like we have a response there. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to all these questions. Anybody who's looking for pricing information, I will be sure to follow back up with either a personal demonstration if you have never seen Work 365, or if you're an existing user, I'll share some information with you on that. Integrations are very much possible. Both these platforms were specifically picked for that capability. So any integration is not a challenge here. Thank you very much for that compliment, Amy. I appreciate it. All right. That's all I had for today. So if there's no more questions, we'll wrap up here. Thank you very much for joining me today and spending some time here with us. And I look forward to talking to you some more.